Yeah. I think the thing that really resonates with so many people and is a general truism is that suicide is not prevented by any one person. It's not prevented by any one counselor, any one therapist. It takes a community to prevent suicide. We're talking about prevention as intervention and intervention as prevention, here's the long and short of it is the most important thing to do for that person in that moment is give them space to talk.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stronger Than the Storm, the podcast where we talk about the tough stuff, suicide, mental health, and the real challenges people face. But we don't stop there. We also talk about hope, healing, and the power of community. Because at Beacon for Hope Suicide Prevention, we believe that bringing hope truly saves lives. I'm your host, Melissa Owen, along with my co-host, Kenny Rodriguez.
I'm Kenny Rodriguez.
Today, we are beyond excited to be joined by Brooks Robertson, the statewide prevention coordinator from headquarters, one of the leaders in suicide prevention across Kansas. Brooks brings a wealth of knowledge and insight, and we'll be digging into how prevention efforts work on the ground, why they matter, and how each of us can make a difference. Welcome,
Thanks
Brooks.
so much for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Yes. First, let's get started. How'd you get into suicide prevention and prevention work?
Well, it's really interesting. Social work as a field. A lot of people enter this field because they are particularly called to giving back, to whether that's to their community, to others who may have had similar experiences. And that's true in the suicide prevention field as well, I've found. I'm someone who has lived experience with suicide. My mother is a suicide attempt survivor. It became clear to me as I was becoming a young man, that this was a field that was very important for me to be in. So I feel called to help others in a manner that I felt I needed myself.
Nice. Tell us a little about what you do for headquarters.
So with headquarters, I've worn many different hats. I first started at the organization in 2021, answering texts and chats for the Lifeline system. So all of the text contacts that they received or any of the instant message contacts, did that for about 9 months before transitioning into a behavioral health liaison role. So that was my first foray really into macro level social work, where the work I was doing wasn't as much focused on direct one-on-one sort of counseling, but more around prevention, around systems, around networking organizations, agencies with a common cause together to pull weight in the same direction. So with the behavioral health liaison role, my job was largely coordinating with other mental health centers, other behavioral health agencies around how to integrate Lifeline into other processes that they may have, or how Lifeline augments those processes that they might already have in place. So through that role, I've gotten to travel. I've gotten to meet a lot of incredible, unique people in the state of Kansas that are doing incredibly hard, difficult work. And the people who often, it's suicide, mental health, it's not something that happens 8 to 5. It's something that if you are interested in committing your life to, you've got to be ready to go at the drop of a hat. And I see so many people across the state who perpetuate that commitment. And the work that I so often did was operationalizing the incredible outsized effort that they had already put toward this work, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So when you go into different communities, you said connecting with different organizations and stuff, how do you present, we start talking about suicide and it may be a social service type organization, but their specialty isn't suicide or behavioral health. How do you start that conversation to really try to focus on how suicide impacts everyone, anywhere, it doesn't matter, and how to make that conversation like an easy conversation and to get people kind of excited about, okay, what can I do as somebody who's working maybe with clients or with the community?
Sure.
If I see something, who do I turn them to?
Yeah. I think the thing that really resonates with so many people and is a general truism is that suicide is not prevented by any one person. It's not prevented by any one counselor, any one therapist. It takes a community to prevent suicide. And so many different agencies, different organizations across the state are doing amazing, incredible work. But it's often, we've talked about this in the past, siloed, where maybe the left hand isn't exactly sure what the right is doing, or we're all doing incredible work through our own unique avenues to tackle these similar problems. But how much more effective could we be if we were closely operating? We knew each other, we knew the work that each other are doing, and we're willing to lean on each other when it's needed as well, lean on each other's expertise in specific moments. So that's often the conversation that really brings people to the table and shows them, hey, we not only want to build a stronger community, but also be a good partner to you as well. And so often the relationship just goes from there.
I agree.
So how long you been doing this, you said?
So I've been with headquarters since 21. I performed the duties of the behavioral health liaison and maybe also some additional things for about a year and a half. And then I transitioned into this role in 2023.
So over your the last 5 years, how have you seen organizations change to address this issue of suicide?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've seen a lot of at many different levels, at the legislature, at the individual level, and everything in between. We've seen people take a renewed commitment to suicide prevention and intervention. The way that the legislator, has mandated certain changes of our CCBHCs, formerly community mental health centers. So now CCBHC is Certified Community Behavioral Care Clinic. And with that change in designation includes more wraparound services, more services that are focused on holistic addressing the circumstances of that person's life, services that are more able to meet the immediate need within the proper context. So that might look like mobile response teams that a lot of these mental health centers are building right now to be able to respond in person. So first responders, but mental health, essentially. You'll see other programs or other adoptions of other types of principles like the sliding scale fee, where someone, regardless of ability to pay, will receive services at a mental health center. So we've seen a lot of really great work at the legislative level to sort of create momentum in the state around all of us pushing toward this common goal of suicide prevention, of mental health awareness, in ways that trickle down. So that conversation starts at a high level, but it's been rumbling down here for a long time too. One of the biggest pushers that we've really seen around funding 988, particularly in 2022, we saw a lot of sheriff's deputies, a lot of sheriffs, a lot of jail staff come out and say, hey, look, there's a lot of things that we are, but the one thing that our jails aren't, that our responders aren't, are mental health workers or mental health facilities. So how do we create a system that works best for people dependent on their need when they're struggling? So we've seen all across the aisle of all different occupations really come together with a rising voice and say, look, Kansas has gutted mental health for 20 years, 25 years. It's time for us to start rolling the ball in the other direction. So that advocacy work that's been done on top of the good policy that the legislature has instilled has really begun a general push and awareness that I think that all of those more mid-level agencies, organizations are really, it makes it so much easier to come to the table, understand. And when everyone's at the same table, it means that we're all having the same meal, right? So all of that put together has really changed the landscape, I think, in the last 5 years in a really incredible way.
How much is well, you were there during the pandemic in this field.
Yes.
How much has that pandemic changed response to suicide? And
No, it's been very interesting. Lifeline, who's administered by a federal organization, SAMHSA, who is administered by Health and Human Services, recognized very early on the unique impacts that the pandemic would have on mental health and suicide ideation, and potentially its downstream effects on what intervention and prevention would look like. We've seen more isolation since the pandemic. We've seen greater numbers of individuals who are less connected. Generally, we're seeing increases in all cohorts in suicide ideation and attempts, not just here in Kansas, on a national level. Now, Kansas averages about, it fluctuates, but about 50% higher of a rate than the national average. And there are a lot of complex social reasons, economic reasons for that. But we have seen this continue to rise. And that has, I think, rung a lot of alarm bells for people, especially post-pandemic, to see it continue to increase at a higher rate as well. Which is why there's been this big push around making so many services more accessible, 988 included. Local crisis lines are an important piece of this too, where they have long-term historical data here in the state as well, and they've also reported increases in usage in how many people are reaching out through those avenues. So not just the most acknowledged, most branded, most marketed spaces for mental health, all across the board.
Yeah. I know we do a lot of work with teens, and I know that one of the conversations that we have with the teens post-pandemic is that there was an understanding of the isolation and the disconnect during the pandemic, but they weren't warned about what it was going to be like when they had to come back together.
Yeah.
And some who didn't necessarily have, any issues with the isolation, they still managed to, to maintain those friendships or relationships. But then when they were physically,
right, it's a different dynamic then.
It is.
Yeah.
And then that started them with having the, depressive episodes. Anxiety was like one of the number one things and they weren't sure how to handle that because they hadn't experienced. They were expecting it over here during the post-pandemic. And, they feel very left behind by their peers because, well, they've got through it just fine, whatever just fine is, and then not knowing who to talk to. So from your perspective, because you have gotten to go to all different parts of our state, some have a lot more resources than others and such, but how do you help in those rural areas where maybe mental health isn't even talked about, let alone let's talk specifically about suicide?
Yeah.
How can we ease and get those resources into the hands of those areas that really need them?
Yeah. I want to take a moment. So before I address your question, do you know who Thomas Joyner is? So he's a sociologist. I believe he works or has worked out of Florida State University. But in the field, he's really seen as a preeminent researcher. And 20 or 18-ish years ago, Thomas Joyner unveiled his model for suicide capability, essentially, which is we find with many people who experience suicide ideation that there is a significant component of lonesomeness, of isolation. When we couple that with someone's feeling of burdensomeness, like they can't talk about what's going on, or they feel like they can't explain it, or they feel like if they were to tell someone about what's going on, it could make things harder for themselves or for the person that they're telling. That's where suicide ideation really begins, where the seeds of it begin and start. And then when we couple that with someone who seeks to acquire capability, so that could mean means, but that could also mean mental frame. So someone who may be drinking a lot to inhibit their thinking, or taking drugs, or whatever it might be, making other preparations in life to make the act of suicide more palatable. That's where we see suicide attempts. So when you talk about teens, youth, who are already feeling isolated through the pandemic, who then come back into school and are unable to piece together their feelings around why this doesn't feel right, that's when we're really starting to see that increase in rate, and when we start being worried about our students. But for so much of the state, we've got I-70, I-35. They're kind of our corridors of population, right? You'll get Kansas City, Lawrence, Topeka, and then Salina, Hayes along 70, and then, Wichita, Emporia. But outside of that, we really live in a mental health desert. So really, one thing that I've found is it's so important when you do carry that message to rural communities to communicate that this is a priority, that they get passed over for so much all the time. They're always having to, drive to Manhattan for their conferences, or, I always hear this phrase, west of Wanamaker,
Yes.
So Wanamaker and Topeka. So that really alludes to this feeling that I think a lot of people in Western Kansas have, which I think when we look at our model that Joyner introduced us to, we're seeing a significant component of isolation at a community level. On top of that, you're coupling that with the incredibly deep political divide that our country is experiencing at this moment as well, which I think makes it so much harder for people to be able to come, meet in the middle, talk about things. When you see those two things that are really in this moment in time really starting to couple, I think that really should tell you a lot about why rural rates for attempts, for deaths, are so much higher than for our more urban centers in the state. So when you're able to go into those communities, say, no, you are our priority. We are here for you. We would rather talk to 10 people here than 100 people in Topeka. You're communicating a message of warmth, of acceptance, that I don't, it's about you right now. And that's really, and I think about this a lot. Prevention is really systemic intervention. It really is. The same practices that we use in intervention are the same things that we're doing at community levels for prevention, whether that's talking about it and putting names to words, whether that's at connecting to resources. In an intervention, you might do that actively. In prevention, you might tell a community about connection to a resource, instill that initial kind of first understanding in them around this is something that could work for you for problems that are like present. So it comes down to approach, being understanding, and always being willing to listen to, because everyone has a story. When you're able to say, I will radically hear your story. I'm here for you radically. You can dissolve some of that burdensomeness barrier around some of that lonesomeness barrier. And especially with youth, this is an important message for them to hear. Mental health is something that we can all get behind, which is why I've talked to youth all the time about how, look, what we have done up to now, it's up to the adults in the room to recognize what we have done is not enough. It's up to us to be able to own that we have made mistakes in the past. And it's up to us to own that we might make mistakes in the future too, but we are radically here for you. And that's the message that saves lives.
It is. And I love how you say when you go into a community about that they're the priority, because I think so many times I've seen it before where somebody comes into your area, well, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
But if you did A, B, C, and D, you wouldn't be experiencing ideation. You wouldn't have, people struggling. And you can't do that because I think that automatically puts that wall up.
Right. I mean, we're talking about prevention as intervention and intervention as prevention. Would you ever in an intervention space say, well, no, you're doing it wrong?
Right.
Right. No.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we've got to be able to, I think, disseminate our message in ways that people can digest.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean coming in and saying, we know exactly what to do.
Right.
It means, hey, what have you seen? What has worked in the past? How can we help you do the things that have worked in the past again?
Mm-hmm.
So, like I've said a couple of times already, the suicide prevention is a community response. It's not something that one person can come in and dictate. It's not something that one person or one program with the state can say definitively anything. Oh, they can say some things, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But when we recognize that all of us need to pull the train in the same direction and we're all in it together, it makes it so much easier for the message to be heard, but also it makes it easier for you to say it too.
Yes, I agree. Kenny, in your work as a police officer, do you find when you come into contact with somebody who might be struggling mentally that do you offer 988 as a resource for them if they struggle, if they need somebody to talk to? I mean, is that something that you're able to utilize as well?
Yeah, we can definitely utilize 988. And a lot of times when we have contact with them, they just want somebody to listen to them because they don't have anybody, or they don't feel like they can go to the people that's close to them. And if you just, not lecture and say, hey, just listen to them and then provide feedback to what they're saying. Or, if the way they know that you're listening to them is you repeat back what they say, what they said.
Yes.
And it helps a lot to build that trust if they know that you're listening to them, even if it's on the phone. I had a gentleman that called a radio station, and they just kind of blew him off. They had like services, counseling services, but they just kind of blew him off. And then they called us. So I called him back and just listened to him. I mean, I don't know what kind of guy he was. If he could have been a hardcore criminal, but he was going through some things. And
right. It's not about that at that moment.
No, it's not. And I got a message the next day. He denied, I'm not going to kill myself. Why would I do that? And I go, I'm just telling you what I've been told, what's going on. And then he goes into his problems that he's having in life and all that. And then the next day, I think we stayed on the phone for an hour, me and him.
Yeah.
And the next day he calls and leaves a message. So I call him back and I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, just wanted to let you know I had a plan, but I didn't.
Yeah.
After talking to you, I decided not to. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
and it's so interesting. I've talked to several dispatch agencies, PSAPs around the state.
Yeah.
And one thing that when I first started in this role that was shocking to me was I had several PSAPs who explained to me, yeah, probably something like 20%, maybe 25% of the calls that we're taking, there's no criminal component to the call. There's no exigent need for EMS. What's happening in that moment is a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
Which was, frankly, baffling to me. Well, perhaps not baffling, but a very sad reality that we live in. And there is so much work around mental health that police officers do and are so hands-on in the ways that they do it. And one thing with cops too is they're so used to being shown all these different programs. Hey, here's a program that will help you. Here's a program that will help you. Here's a program that will help you. And then when they go to access it or feel that they need it, it's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's so important with so many different public systems to show up and keep showing up too.
Yes.
To say, hey, I'm still here in year 3. I'm still here in year 4. I'm still here in year 10. We're here to support, and I've still got the same message. When we're able to do that, that's how buy-in happens. So I want to thank you for the work that you do. I know that it's not easy.
No, and it affects people, all sorts of walks of life, and even in our industry, And
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, we're talking about rural communities, which are farmers, blue collar workers, lots of them jobs as men.
Yeah.
Have you guys had any pushback from programs?
It's a tough balance to walk. I will say that. For whatever reason, and there are several theories, men exhibit much higher rates of death by suicide. It's almost double that of women. And in particular, men who are over 40 are struggling in ways that maybe other demographics aren't expressing. So all of that put together really tells us that we need to have a targeted, focused mission and vision for how prevention and intervention works for men, particularly those in rural areas. When we talk about those isolation pieces, those burdensomeness pieces, I think we can imagine why that might fall on men, maybe more than women. And some of that's cultural, some of that's social, but it's the reality that we live in today in 2025. And so how do we address that reality and the difficult thing around that is sometimes it feels like you step on toes. Sometimes we're asked to have certain targets or certain objectives that don't line up with our data.
Right.
So how do we balance that with where we know need is? And part of that is being frank, being honest, ringing the bell for populations advocacy who may not be have that exposure within the system. So I think it's incredibly important for us to highlight men's mental health struggles. I think it's incredibly important for us to ring the bell that these are warning signs that we're all seeing, and they don't look good. And I think that it's up to us to radically accept what data says as well. And so often, for unique reasons too, sometimes people play games with data. I think we can all acknowledge this. Sometimes those games end up hurting in the long run rather than helping. So I think it's up to us to be radically honest, open, and accountable to people to really start making a difference.
And I think you have to make people uncomfortable.
I agree.
That's what I have found. You try to kind of soft foot it in. Hey, we've noticed some things. Just want to give you some information. Here's some resources, and you just kind of at their leisure. And then you start seeing the data. And the data doesn't lie because it's consistent, and it's consistent, especially surrounding men.
Yeah.
And you have to be blunt. And where you're almost like in the face. I care about you. I understand parts of what you're struggling with. And you're not struggling alone as a man. There are, millions all struggling with the same thing. But society has taught our roles. And, and when you say something, and you should be able just to, suck it up. What you have to be so stressed about. This is your role. You're the provider. You're this. You're not allowed to have emotions, that sort of thing. So
I'd say it even goes beyond that too, where so often men's struggles are almost downplayed by society as well, where so often men don't feel like they can actually talk about what's really eating their lunch, whether that's, like you've said, the perception that they'll be weak or whatever, however that funnels down. So many men feel like they have no one that they can talk to about the really complicated things that are going on in their lives. Which is why we find a lot of men do reach out through 988. and they do talk through the lifeline. But oftentimes those other pieces where we're trying to establish a resource connection, there will be resistance because, hey, maybe this supportive open space works for me, but I know when I contact the system, it might not look the same.
Right. That fear factor. And I think that's a lot of hesitation for reaching out for anybody is what I've come into, and for myself as well. It's hard when you need to make that step, but what does that look like? Because I could call and be anonymous and feel very validated, feel like I can really talk and I'm not being judged because you don't know anything about me except for what I'm telling you. And then as soon as you give me that connection and there's somebody local that maybe I could connect with. And
I think we need to be ready to radically validate men's issues as well.
Yes.
So many men feel scared to talk about what's going on or what they really think about a circumstance. I think that if we're able to address that barrier, could make coming to the table easier as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I think for men, we're problem solvers, and we got to solve our own problems. And,
that's certainly something I've experienced.
Yeah, and I've experienced it, and going to the anonymous part of it of 988, it's a lot more appealing than going to your spouse or going to a friend, and a lot of in the blue collar work, a lot of the guys are they joke around a lot, and in policing we have our dark humor and stuff like that. And
we have it in suicide prevention.
Yeah. And nurses, they have the same thing, And when you see tragedy every day, that's a lot of the coping mechanism on how to deal with that. But I mean, I can see when somebody's struggling, and when I talk, hey man, you did okay. And they're so resistant to talking about their problems, and they're struggling by themselves, and you just try to, reach out and, when you deal with people's tragedy all the time, it's hard to stay in the job, and people get burnt, and they, and it goes from nurses, doctors, and,
all fields that have higher rates for suicide.
Yeah.
All of our doctors and medical professionals as well, including veterinarians, higher rates.
Yes.
I didn't know that about veterinarians.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine you're in a position where you're often in that you're interacting with people as they're saying goodbye to animals that they often consider family.
Yeah.
Oftentimes are there through incredibly difficult decisions that people have to make. And oftentimes, I think that a lot of veterinarians don't really get the appreciation that they deserve as well.
I agree.
So when you couple all of that together, I'm taking it back to Joiner again. We find a field where a lot of people feel burnt, where they feel like they can't talk to other people about the things that they've had to do, gone through, the things that they've experienced, and feel like if they were to talk to other people, maybe non-professionals, non-veterinarians, they wouldn't understand.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something we need to work better on as a society as well, where, Kenny and I talk very kind of frank about, what he's seen when he's doing his police work and the work that I'm doing. We interact with totally different people, but understanding what he goes through and having gone on a ride along with him for just 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the gears that we switched, where I'm still back here at this call, and now we're over here at a traffic stop, which was so opposite end of the first call we went to. I'm like, how do you decompress from that when you're on to the next and you're on to the next? There's no time. So having a better appreciation for those who are doing this work where you are experiencing trauma, all the time. I had somebody ask me one time, why do I want to keep myself in trauma all the time with doing suicide prevention work? Because it's not all about death. It's about saving lives. When I view suicide prevention as, yes, I'm here because I lost my sister to suicide. What would she want me to do? She would not want another family to experience what we still experience every day. How can I do that? By talking, by telling her story, by giving a resource. If a business card that has 988 can save a life, absolutely. I don't like to speak in front of people, but I will do it if I can connect to that one person in the audience that takes away and can come back later to me and say, you know what, that day, you really saved my life because, you listened to me. And it is just listening. And I'm just floored every outreach event when somebody comes back. And just by having what I consider a normal conversation when someone's speaking to you, whether you know them or not, you are fully engaged in that conversation because they trust you to open up and they're vulnerable and you hear the things they're telling you and they're trying to connect.
Yeah.
And I think people get scared of that connection because what it brings up in them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to share if you're not ready. But I think if more people would allow that little bit of that uncomfortableness again to come out in themselves when somebody on that other side is a little more comfortable, I think we could connect a lot quicker and save more lives.
Oh, yeah.
That way.
And Kenny, you mentioned something too, where you mentioned so many men feel like they have to solve their problems.
Yes.
And I think about how de-escalation, crisis counseling, really the objective is not to solve the problems that are going on in one's life. It's to really give that space that you're just talking about, to be able to talk about whatever we need to really talk about. So many people, is it a helpful conversation to have with someone who might be really struggling?
Right.
Hey, well, have you tried X, Y, Z?
Right.
A, B, C, 1, 2. It's like, well, I've been dealing with this for 10 years. Do you think that I wouldn't have done that if I thought it was going to make a difference?
Right.
So, so much of the work that we do is really setting the table and then just sitting, listening to people about what's going on in life, giving them the space that they need for that decompression and to be able to find some sort of meaning within it all too. And oftentimes you can't impose meaning on someone else.
Right.
It's got to be internal.
Yes.
But so often when we provide that context where, hey, there's no outside pressure to change, to do anything different. This is a space to air your grievances. We find that so helpful for so many people, and they're able to establish safety after having that conversation.
Yeah. I think it's hard to, especially when talking with men, because men are more reluctant. We do get, and I'm always excited when there is a gentleman that wants to share, privately at an outreach, and especially when they get emotional too. I feel like men have to allow themselves to do that when women, I'm crying whether I'm frustrated or sad or, happy or whatever, but, and you can just see the physical relief of that, carrying that load on their shoulders and just having somebody listen. And I just wish there was a way to change that narrative where men who are struggling, when you see that, somebody's struggling and, hey, you've made yourself available. You're asking, hey, are you okay? And then do we say, hey, I'm really worried about you. Tell me what's going on. And then almost being more forceful, and that causes someone to recluse even more, right?
Yeah.
Because they're scared. And they might be scared of what comes out when they do finally let it all out. And what's your perception going to be of them then? Because it's important to that person. I don't want to be seen as somebody who, can't be trusted, maybe on the job, maybe somebody wouldn't be good in this situation or is unstable. I just want to keep it to myself. But how do we create that safety of, what? We're all struggling we all struggle. Different seasons of life. We do. And
right. Each one of us at some point, some day will be the hardest day in your life.
Yes.
Just inevitably.
Absolutely.
So
it will.
How can we be prepared when that day happens?
Right. So we talk a lot about protective factors, really trying to educate individuals on what's a protective factor. It's not just physical safety, but for your mind.
Right. What are the things that keep you happy, healthy, whole?
Yes, exactly. So what are your protective factors?
My protective factors.
What do you deploy when you know that you're going to have maybe a little stressful time?
Yeah.
So you want to have something in place.
Yeah. Well, I lean on friendship quite a bit. I lean on hobbies, other things that I know fill my cup.
Yes.
But I also tell myself I don't have to change the world.
Right.
Don't have to. So often, so many of us in our lives are juggling.
Yep.
Juggling all the time. We've got 3, 4, 5 balls up in the air. And sometimes a ball drops.
Yes.
And it feels terrible.
It does.
It feels awful.
Mhm.
But if you're going to juggle, an inevitability is that, someday you might drop something.
Mhm.
And part of that is we talk about radical acceptance
Mhm.
for people that we talk to.
Yes.
It's important for us to remember radical acceptance for ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I'm very guilty of, I can tell you, oh, Kenny, have you done this, and this? Brooks, have you done this? And if you turn it on me, I'm like, oh, well, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of everybody else. But often, we don't look inward
Right.
of what works for us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What about your protective factors?
Detailing my car.
Oh,
It is my number one. I can spend 2 hours easily just cleaning my car. I turn the music on and I'm out there with the vitamin D, a little bit of sun, and just get lost in the lines of the car. I have all these detailing brushes. It just really, it just helps me just let it all just kind of fall away. And then I feel like I can think.
Yeah.
Because having so many things up in the air, it's like, okay, I need to do this, and this, but I can't fully form exactly what that would all entail. But when I'm in that moment of detailing, I feel like my mind is free. So I always have Post-it notes in my car, and a pen, and I can write them down.
Yeah.
And then I feel in control again, and not overwhelmed, and that I'm ready to go. So I detail, and then I like to drive. Just go for, a drive in my car.
Around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And friendship. Yes.
Yeah.
Got your bestie where, boy, I can just text all, rant, call or whatever. We kind of have a deal where it's like, hey, are you busy right now? Do you have, you got like 4 minutes for me, and it's like, even if I was busy, I drop them for you, so just, so you don't have to keep carrying that with you for the day. How about you, Kenny? What do you do?
I think going out for a walk, being in nature is.
Oh yeah. Nature is great.
Yeah.
Learning how things work.
And you mentioned driving. Sometimes just going out in the Flint Hills and driving.
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of veterans will use driving as one of the protecting factors, just because they can. Like for me, I just turn off the radio and just be with my thoughts. And of course, in my job, I drive around all the time, and there's times after certain calls, and you just want no noise.
Yeah.
And there is like on day shift, it's a little harder because there's a lot more radio traffic. And I have an earpiece that I listen to my radio on in my ear, and there's some days I just take it out and turn my car radio up a little bit, so I can hear it. But when it's right there in your ear, it's just like pounding.
Yeah, constant.
Yeah.
But getting out like on a day like today, I know it's hot, but I love the heat.
Oh yeah,
being outside.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's probably the main protective factor for me is just getting out and taking a walk.
Yeah.
So some of my best ideas come from walking.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. When you get alone by yourself and you get lost in your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to think clearly.
Yeah.
To really develop a full thought. Or sometimes like, oh yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Right.
When we get so busy, why do I have my phone in my hand? You forgot what you were about to look up.
Yeah.
Because you're just constantly inundated and just stimulated all the time.
Oh yeah.
Where I just have to put everything away. And I like to go out of town. It's like, I go to a car club meeting in Topeka once a month, and just getting out of town, driving for an hour, just knowing that I have no responsibilities in Topeka, but to go to this car club, and I'm going to stop at Target on my way home. That's a protective thing for me because we don't have a Target.
Yeah.
So just wandering around the store and getting to come back home just kind of resets me.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. I love learning something new. I mean, you mentioned how we're kind of in stimulus overdrive all the time.
Yes.
But if I can, kind of unplug, focus on, hey, what's something that I maybe don't know about that, I am interested in that I could know. I find that everything else just falls away.
Yeah.
And it's just me and whatever this weird world we live in is in all of its wild happenstances and coincidences. So just finding those things that make you feel connected to a wider world, I think are so important.
And I think it's important to be okay allowing ourselves to do that and not feeling like we needed to fill our time all the time.
Yeah.
I did that to myself last night. It was like 8:30, and I immediately thought, oh, well, you know how much work you could probably get done this hour and a half that you didn't have to do in the morning. Physically went and got my laptop and then said out loud,
What am I doing?
No.
Yeah.
It is okay to leave it there and do it in the morning like you had originally planned, but just constantly and fast forward. I think most of us are.
Yeah,
What's
a lot
next?
of us are.
What's next? What's next? So, yeah. So let's say somebody calls into 988.
Sure.
Take us through the process of what's that like. We know that a lot of people are scared, to talk on the phone. Let's say they do call. So what's going to be the reception as soon as a volunteer answers the phone?
Okay. So a lot of people don't know this. The first thing you hear when you call 988 is actually a phone tree, which is, I think, a very intimidating thing for people to hear first thing. We are always seeking to shorten the phone tree. Right now, it lasts about 37 seconds. And it includes the options when you first reach out. If you remain on the line, you'll be connected with a crisis counselor.
Okay.
But you have options currently for 1 and 2.
Okay.
Press 1 to connect with the Veterans Crisis Line. Press 2 to connect to the Spanish subnetwork.
Okay.
So that Spanish subnetwork performs that same intervention in Spanish, but through Lifeline, you can actually receive translation services.
Okay.
It's a really great message that we can share with people that regardless of the language that you speak at home, you'll be able to speak that through Lifeline as well.
Okay.
So a lot of folks don't know that the first thing you hear is actually a robot's voice. And we actually see a lot of callers abandon in that moment where they decide, it was really hard for me to build up the courage to reach out through this line. And, I heard that and I'm not sure this is the right space for me. So it's really important for us to message around that. Through Lifeline, we have all these different modalities, right? We have the calls, the texts. You can get online, do an instant message chat with a crisis counselor through Lifeline's website. They've also introduced video call services that are available through Lifeline's website as well.
Okay.
Those really seek to serve different populations. When you think about the video call service, right now its availability is pretty limited. Right now its intent is for use for folks who are deaf, hard of hearing.
Okay. For
folks who may otherwise have difficulty talking on the phone or typing. Okay. Folks who live with disability.
Okay.
So then we see, so I've had the opportunity to do calls, be a call counselor, and to do chat text. So I've always been really surprised by this dynamic as well. Maybe I shouldn't be, where something like 67% of folks who reach out through the phone, they're over the age of 24.
Okay.
So that ratio for texts, it's flipped. Something like 67% of the folks that we talk to through the text line are under the age of 20.
Yeah.
So we have all of these different modalities. The way I really think about it is we want the person to select the bucket that works best for them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that is really the impetus or the thinking behind the phone tree that first confronts you when you dial 988. Okay. We continue to seek to ask people to self-select what contact modality makes the most sense for them.
Okay.
So like I've mentioned, they'll be greeted with a message that says press 1 or press 2 or remain on the line. Okay. In the past, there have been other options. Trevor Project is being sunsetted later this month. So I believe Trevor Project's main office, there are 4 centers that answer for Trevor Project. One answers something like 70% of the volume. Wow. I believe they're located in Michigan. The big question for this year is whether they'll be able to maintain operations through private donations and through state funding is the big question with Trevor Project. Okay. Right now, they are being decoupled from the Lifeline system. So right now there are only 2 press options when you dial.
Okay.
After that, you will be connected to a crisis counselor. Kansas averages connecting that person in less than 15 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
So, and we have in Kansas 3 layers to the system as well. We answer, all of the centers in Kansas roughly answer about 91, 92% of the calls. But then after 3 minutes, if that call is not able to be answered at their initial contact point, they roll over to another center.
Okay.
Which also, thankfully, has a roughly 91, 92% answer rate.
Okay.
So say someone calls in Wyandotte County or Sedgwick County. They'll ring to a center. If for whatever reason that person's they're not able to answer, they'll ring over to another center. They're given the opportunity to answer. But when you do the math, 90%, 10 of them are going, 10, just round numbers. 10 are going to the next place.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, 9 will be answered. Mm-hmm. And then if we have, that one, there's a 0.9% chance it's getting answered in Kansas. So we're really proud of the fact that calls from Kansas, there's a 99.9% chance that it's going to be answered here in the state. And that's important for a couple of different reasons. When they've been answered as part of a national network or a national backup network, it makes that service connection or that resource connection piece on the back end a lot more difficult.
Yes, sure.
They might be given references to national services rather than something that might be located right there in their community. Mm-hmm. Someone might not receive a referral for something that might be right here in Lyon County if they're calling from here. So being able to have that answered by a Kansas counselor who has resource lists, who works with agencies that interoperate, is incredibly important for that caller when they call through. So that person will have their phone call answered here in Kansas, and then they'll be presented the opportunity to talk really about whatever's going on.
Okay.
Oftentimes, that first thing that they might hear might sound like, so at headquarters, we might say something like, "This is Headquarters Counseling Center. What's going on?"
Just as simple as that.
As simple as that. Mm-hmm. We invite that person to talk more about what's going on while we screen for acuity.
Yes.
What's that person's current level of acuity around suicide ideation and risk? We get at that by sometimes asking direct questions. Are you thinking about suicide today? Do you have a plan for suicide? Do you have the items that you would need to execute your plan? Things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But the purpose of the conversation is really to curate a safe space for that person to talk while they remain safe. So 988 counselors are interested in safety for that person in the immediate moment. They might be interested in where you are, what you're doing at that moment because of what it might mean for acuity or risk. So someone might have questions asked of them in that manner.
Okay.
But it's really important for the counselor to be able to curate that space in a way that's as warm, welcoming as possible for that person, because we know that just that conversation, talking about what's going on, is the thing that increases their level of safety and reduces their level of risk more than anything else. Mm-hmm. More than anything else. Mm-hmm. Something like 88%, 88 point something or other, of folks who call through the 988 system, they're able to de-escalate safely from that moment of crisis with just the phone call.
Wow.
No other resource referral needed. Mm-hmm. For about 10%, there's an additional referral that might be needed. Might be local mental health center, might be their local CDDO. Mm-hmm. It could be anything. It could be a addiction recovery center. maybe even just a food bank or something that could help with housing costs or whatever it might be. And then for roughly 1.4%, there may be police contact where we've made a determination that this person is not able to stay safe alone and we need additional help to assure safety. I think that's really important for people to know, that if the conversation through 988 ends before there has been the ability to assure safety on the part of the crisis counselor, there is an obligation to include other parties.
Okay. Yes. I think that's important for people to know too.
Yeah. So tell us about the people on the other side of the line.
Our counselor?
Yeah, your counselors.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I mean, I don't know if I think about it, but who's on the other line and what are the qualifications?
Yeah. So
also, how many do you have?
Yeah. So there are 5 centers here in Kansas. All of them are accredited through a specific body called Vibrant. So Vibrant goes through and makes the determinations on the process of the service. But we're also accredited by another board called ICH, the International Council of Helplines. So we actually maintain a dual accreditation through Vibrant and this other helpline system. So the training that the counselors receive for our center, each 988 center looks a little bit different. It's based off of really the history of how this system really began. But our counselors will go through about 100 hours of training spread out across about 9 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
From there, if they are intent to practice those counseling skills through an alternate modality like text, there might be additional training requirements affiliated with that. Okay. So that training looks like observation of other call counselors who have experience, might look like role plays with other counselors or other trainees to be able to simulate real-time simulations. It might look like lectures or other types of homework or whatever it might be. And then group discussions, group work, different types of different ways at getting at the education around what that person in crisis needs and how to meet that need. So we're very proud of our training program. We've had folks from all walks of life recognize that, the really valuable work that this, training can do for people too. We've had folks who have been truck dispatchers. We've had folks who have worked for dispatch centers. We've had folks who have worked for the FBI.
Wow.
Go through our training program and sing its praises. I was actually invited to the Kansas City FBI office earlier this year to give a talk about suicide intervention during their segments and crisis negotiation training. So a lot of different fields recognize the importance that crisis counseling can have for in the work that they do. But we are really the folks who wrote the book, so to speak.
Yes.
So us and many different organizations who work together across the United States, of course. But we're very proud of our training program, very proud of being able to put counselors who are phone ready in a position to be able to help people who are in need.
Who's there for those counselors to help support them? They get off a really heavy call. I mean, is there somebody that's not maybe on the phone there?
Oh, absolutely.
Available? Okay.
Yeah. So, so each of our call counselors is asked to answer calls in person in the office, and we've done it different ways in the past. But one thing that we've really found is that when everybody's in the same room together, there's an instant person right there that you can lean on, who knows what's going on, who knows generally the context of what you might be struggling with, and can relate to you. We talk about these same things: isolation, burdensomeness. How do we address those things in our staff as well, so
Right.
that this isn't an undue burden that person is taking home with them.
Right.
So all of our call counselors are supervised by clinical licensed master social workers, but they also have access to supervisors 24 hours a day that they can talk to. So they have multiple different levels, multiple different bells that they can ring, so to speak. Some decide, I can talk to my coworker about this. Some decide, I don't feel clinically good about what happened.
Yeah.
That might be in a moment where you're talking to your licensed supervisor.
Okay.
But there might be other times where, it might be something in between that where, I'm torn up after this call for one reason or another. I need someone to talk to and need someone to provide proper context for what happened.
Right.
And that's a really important role that our supervisors hold. We do a lot to really curate a safe, supportive environment for our counselors. We've had a crisis line director in the past say something along the lines of like, as long as you've got salt and sugar in the call room, that goes a really long way. Salt, sugar.
Yes.
But yeah, being able to have a safe, well-lit space that's cozy, that, honestly, I walk into our call room and it feels like a warm hug.
It does. And having toured it does. There's this comfortable seating. There's these really engaging decorations, brilliant colors, and just everybody has their space. And it feels very warm going in there. It's not like counselors in cubicles answering calls with a headset on. It's not that type of vibe at all. It's really nurturing in there.
And this is nothing that, each of us in our own unique ways do it. But I'm always really proud and honored to be part of an organization that curates a community as well. And the way that the call room leans on each other, they become a larger community as well. Like right now, the call room is all into puzzles. They're all into 1,000-piece puzzles, doing them all together.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 months ago, the entire call room got really into chess. And, they build camaraderie.
That's awesome.
And build togetherness through shared interests, through just being around each other. And we bring in folks from all walks of life too, different ages, ethnicities, men and women, and everything in between. So just the environment that we've been able to curate in the call room, I think, is something special as well.
That's great. How many counselors do you have at a time on the phone?
On the phone at any given time.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what the volume for that current. So we have certain understandings of what volume, how it ebbs and flows. Every day is different. But there are general trends that we do see. For instance, Fridays are typically busier than Mondays.
Okay. Yeah.
So typically we'll have anywhere between 4 or 5, sometimes 3. Very rarely on overnights we'll have 2. But we have a total staff, a total counseling staff of around 30, 35.
Wow.
We're always seeking to train more staff as well. We've our volunteer program has ebbed and flowed over the years. In the past, we were fully volunteer staff.
Yes.
But that was a change that was necessary through the change of the Lifeline system. So we still do maintain a volunteer base. They also have to go through about 100 hours of training to be able to be on the phones. But weirdly enough, some people do it, But we have probably about 10, 12 volunteers right now. We've got other training groups going through right now.
That's great. I've met so many former volunteers for the phones back in the days when it was all volunteer and all over the state. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's amazing where they're like, well, that's why I started, I was going to college there, or are really willing to give back for their own experience. They wanted that helped them. So they wanted to pay it forward to somebody else.
Yeah.
So many positive stories of being involved somehow.
Yeah.
at headquarters.
It's a special place.
It is. It is. It is. So we know about your outreach work. What else do you do, Brooks?
Well, what day is it today?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things through the work. Right now, as Statewide Prevention Coordinator, I'm tasked with a lot of other tasks that are broadly connected to, prevention as a whole.
Yes.
So one of my special projects for the last maybe, 2 months, month and a half, 2 months, is I've been working with a software company around providing all of our trainings online for free for anyone in the state to be able to use. So yes. So many of the agencies that I might work with around training for their staff around suicide preparedness, whether that's interventions or just prevention.
Right.
Many of them have needs that exceed, like we've talked about, 9 to 5.
Yes.
So how can we provide a platform for them to be able to meet the needs that they have, regardless of time of day or shift size, whatever it looks like.
Right.
So being able to provide that to the state for free is
incredible. Oh my goodness.
So it is currently available. It's still being built out. It's available through Learn Upon at ksphq.org or learnupon.ksphq.org.
Okay.
And we're also developing trainings for school staff and administrators as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So needed.
Yes.
So needed for sure. I know with the teachers that we have spoken with in the schools, they just feel unprepared.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not willing to, you hear a lot of the negative, it's just one other thing that I have to do, right?
Right.
As a teacher, but that's not the case. They're like, I'm just not sure what to say, how to say it. Who do I get involved?
Right. And in 2017, the state did mandate a certain amount of trainings.
Yes.
For school administrators and staff around suicide prevention and intervention. But we're also seeing so many districts that are struggling.
Yes.
In spite of certain requirements that they might have. You've seen Department of Education come out with their suicide toolkit.
Yes.
In the last, that was about a year and a half ago now. Wow, maybe already 2 years. But we're seeing different arenas coming together, trying to support the school system. But we are hearing from our teachers that this is something that we're seeing more of.
Yes.
And we're seeing higher levels of acuity. So we want to be able to be holistically minded about how we can support that system in a way that makes sense for them.
Yes.
And also will meet the needs that they have, whether that's the needs that their district might put on them or the needs that their students might present.
Yes, yes. I agree. I know depending on where we're at, if we're here in Emporia, where, we have a larger population, and then we go 20 miles where we're going from 1,300 students in a high school to the middle school and high school, there's like 40 total, and the needs, there are similar needs, but they're so vastly different.
Right.
And hearing from the students, it's amazing where we're growing up in a society where kids are talking about their mental health a lot more openly, and they want to talk about it, and they want to help their friends. And how do I help, my friend? And then the teachers, that's just not part of their training of, and so, exactly. Kind of put the brakes on.
They kind of get deer in the headlights in that moment, which I understand.
Yes.
Unless you've really lived in this world, it's an incredibly difficult conversation to have generally.
Yes.
And not that people run from it, but I think it's an intimidating conversation to have because you feel in that moment, it could feel like almost like a tipping point.
Oh, definitely. And what happens in that moment if whoever you're talking to and you get to the question of, are you suicidal? And they say yes.
Yeah.
And you're not prepared.
Yeah. People
then
panic.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if you are
fully
much trained, you panic.
Yeah. So much of the work that we do involves, how do we recognize and acknowledge that panic response, put it to the side, and keep doing the things that person needs in that moment.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's the difficult part.
Yeah.
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 Instead of making that that poor, that kiddo or that teenager or whatever just feel like, oh, well, they don't listen to me either.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
and yeah, here's the long and short of it is the most important thing to do for that person in that moment is give them space to talk.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that goes a long way, just listening.
It does. It's amazing how you can and the person and sometimes I'm like, do you feel better? And they're like, yes, I do.
Sometimes they do say that.
Other times they're like,
no,
wow, that was a lot. I apologize. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Please
No, every
don't
once in a while, it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, it's like the clouds clear for that person in the moment and they recognize what you're doing for them.
Right.
And they often become so ingratiated to you and so thankful that, it happens maybe 1 in every 100 times. But when it does happen, it's like, it's an incredible feeling for the caregiver as well.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Well, it's good work you're doing.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Well, sure.
And curating this space as well to highlight so many of these messages. It's incredible work that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.